why did you get into music?
I don't know, I grew up around music, so many different types of music as well, like having a white English dad and Jamaican mom. There was a lot of good music in my house, man. There was folk and jazz and rock and reggae and rare grooves and like 80s R&B and stuff like that. And when I was really little, I wanted to be a performer. You know, I wanted to be an actor, really. When I was about 6 or 7, so I think it was just one of those things. As I got older, and there's lots of kids doing it around me, it felt like a way of performing that I hadn't thought of before. So I started writing rhymes when I was about 15, little poems and spoken word things that I would never perform. I just write them, and then the more I got around rappers and hip hop, the more it's like, why not? So it was kind of like that. It was organic. You know?
Yeah. Did you have any big inspirations when you started out?
Yeah, I mean, my sister was a big one, and she introduced me to rap music as well. Like, she played me De La Soul and NWA. That was the first I sort of heard. And then the more I sort of dug into it, I would say, yeah, the earliest inspirations were probably those two, man. And then like Tribe Called Quest. Because I'm thinking this, I'm talking around like 91. Do you know what I mean? So it was, you know, whatever broke through the net into my world at that time. And those were three of the biggest, I'd say, NWA, De La, and Tribe. And then after that, probably the Beastie Boys. And there was something about them that seemed to cross genres in like the way that I grew up. You know, it was kind of music that was all over the place, and I quite like that. They were the initial inspirations, and then just going out into the world of hip hop in London in the 90s, you know, you start to see the big characters from that world. So for me, it was people like Black Twang and Rodney P and the London Posse. And then towards the end of the 90s, it was really like Task Force and people like, I guess, like Jest and Kalashnikov, Terra Firma, those type of guys. I started hearing that. I just thought, Lewis Parker, just thought, okay, this is a world that I would love to be a part of, you know. It felt attainable because they were rappers from where I was from, you know?
Mm. So a bit of a tangent here, but what made you go into comedy?
Well, like I say, I was always a performer, you know? Always. And while I was still rapping, I was doing youth work for a living. I wasn't making any money from rap. And there was a guy called Danny Robbins. He worked at BBC Radio. I'd met him briefly, I think at Radio 1. And I was doing like voiceover stuff for One Extra. And he was doing like late night comedy for BBC Radio, Radio 1 and stuff. And I remember I did something for him, wrote like a song for him or something like that. I didn't think anything of it, you know. I didn't think anything of it at all. End of 2007, he called me again, and this time he'd written a whole comedy series for Lenny Henry for Radio 4, and there were some characters in that he was like, oh, I think you'd know what these characters would say. They're like young black guys, you know, from the Midlands, like maybe you'd know what they'd say. And I was like, I can have a look at it. And that was it. And I came in initially just to help out, and then the BBC paid me as a consultant. Next thing I knew, I was writing jokes, you know, for radio sitcoms and comedies on Radio 4. So then that went from writing into performing. And obviously, because I could already rap, I just put the two things together. I didn't really think about it. It was basically, the short answer to your question is there was no plan at any stage for any of these things at all. I was a youth worker. That's what I did. I only gave it up when I realized I had to. There just wasn't time to do it with everything else that was going on. But I never like I said, I always wanted to be an actor, but I never thought it was like a real thing you could do. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it was a reality. So everything that's happened has been just really organic.
So a lot of your comedy is kind of rap based, like Property. Was that kind of difficult to maybe do? Because it's quite a unique thing.
No, that's why it's not difficult, because it's me. It's unique. It's me.
True.
If you ask people that knew me when I was just doing rap, there was funny elements then, but I didn't think of it in comedy terms.
Right.
I just thought I'm an articulate person who can rap well, and I love jokes. So occasionally there's going to be a funny line in there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of rap has that when you think about it. A lot of quote unquote serious rap has funny lyrics, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember one of my favorite rappers back in the 90s was Big L, and he had a line that said, talk about growing up poor and poverty driving him to crime. Very serious topic.
Yeah.
And he says, describes his days. Some days he say, he was breaking in cribs with a crowbar. I wasn't poor, I was poor. I couldn't afford the OR. Which to me is a hilarious line, but it was on a very serious song.
Yeah.
But you can't tell me that he wasn't smart enough to know that was funny. Do you see what I'm saying? So for me, it was a very natural thing. And I think it's hard for other people to do. But for me, that's who I am.
Yeah. Do you think, so I know you mentioned like serious rap, and I know some raps are just purely comedy. Do you think one's more maybe fun to write or maybe to perform? Or are they just... I
think comedic rap is maybe more fun to perform because you're interacting so constantly with the audience. But serious rap is also fun to perform just from a technical level. Like once you get that flow going, like when I do comedic rap these days, I wouldn't use music. Do you know what I mean? I just weave it into the stand-up without music and just...
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So I can pause when something's really funny. I can just wait for the laughter to die down and then bring in the next line. So I'm flowing, but I'm not flowing, if you see what I mean. Whereas when the beat's going, you're doing something serious, you're flowing all the way through. Your voice becomes a percussive instrument all of its own. And that is enjoyable in a different way, you know?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I know you've touched on kind of like that you wanted to be an actor when you were quite young.
Yeah.
But what was like the first, I know you mentioned the radio comedy, but what was like the first acting thing that got you into acting?
Primary school. It was like the school plays at the end of term.
Oh, really?
You do like a little musical. And there was one, I was always trying to get in them. And there was one that was like a mashup of all of those like classic country and western musicals, like Calamity Jane and Annie Get Your Gun and Oklahoma and Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, like all those classic western MGM musicals from the 40s and 50s, you know. And there was a character in there called Doc Holliday, and I played him, and I just absolutely loved like singing and acting in that, and that was it for me. I just had the bug, and the Doc thing always stuck with me as well.
Oh, is that where the name came from?
I think that's a part of it. I can't remember the exact origin, but I know in like early in secondary school, people called me Doc, but more as an insult because I was like obsessed with Back to the Future. And also I was a nerd, man. Like I was a know-it-all. I always had an answer for everything. So they called me the doctor. But also like I was the tape doctor. People used to call me the tape doctor because I could fix Maxell tapes and TDK tapes, cassettes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, like if your tape got twisted or broke, I could fix that shit. So I made mixtapes all the time, you know?
Yeah.
So I was a tape doctor as well. So I was like tape doc, I was Doc Holiday, I was Doc Brown, I was just Doc. And it was just always sort of there. I couldn't give you a specific point where I think, oh, this is where it started.
No, that's fair enough. And just on the acting, so I recently watched David Brent Life on the Road, which obviously you had a big part in.
Yeah.
What's it like filming comedies and like acting in comedies?
It's really different from job to job. Ricky's the best in my opinion because you only get a couple of takes, so you get to you never overkill the joke. And on top of that, he really encourages improvisation. So you'll stick around before the camera's on, practicing stuff you've just made up, or he'll give you a scenario and he'll say, yeah, get me from A to Z. Here's the scenario. So I don't know if you ever saw a show called Derek, but I did a show called Derek with him. And there was me and an actress called Holly Dempsey. And she was like a nurse in an old people's home. And I was like a young offender who was doing, what's it called, community service at the old people's home.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, this is the scene, but it wasn't written. He was like, you have to try and chat her up. Right. But by the end of the scene, you've got to get like a smile out of her. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, so you can't be horrible, but you also have to be like a bit of an idiot because that's who your character is. You get the scenario and you run with it, and then Ricky will go, that bit's funny, say this bit but shorten it, you know, what if you say this, or he give you a couple of lines and then you shoot it, but no more than a couple times, you know? So it never stopped being funny. Whereas I've been on other comedies where you shoot the shit out of it and no one even knows what they're saying anymore, let alone whether it's funny, because you said it so many times, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's very different from job to job.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess in most comedies, but I think especially in the David Brent film, where you're a very like serious character who just doesn't find him funny at all. Do you have any like techniques for keeping a straight face when those scenes are funny?
No. Funny's funny, man. If you laugh, you laugh. Like, I think it's a beautiful thing when people corpse, because you know that it's funny. It's a shame if you lose the scene because you corpse, but a lot of the time you might be on a reverse, so the camera might not be on you, and you just piss yourself. And we know that it's a funny take because you piss yourself. You know what I mean? Like, every time I worked with Ricky, like, my goal was to make him laugh. Do you know what I mean? Every time. Yeah. So
that's good.
You know.
So yeah, I wanted to talk about stand-up a little bit. Have you ever had anything go wrong during a stand-up gig? Like maybe a heckler or something?
Of course. You can't do the job without dying. You gotta die. There's no bulletproof vest in stand-up. There's nothing you can do. It doesn't matter who you are. The best stand-up in the world, your favourite stand-up ever. We've all died. Richard Pryor died. Do you know what I mean? Billy Connolly died. You know? Fucking Woody Allen died. Everybody died at some point. Like, you have to learn how to deal with it. It's a really difficult thing, especially when it happens to you early on. But when you start to know you're funny, like, you've proved it in hundreds and hundreds of gigs. Yeah. Like, by the time I'd done that, dying didn't bother me. What bothered me was more like really awkward situations. Like, I did one charity gig for a friend, and it was for human rights lawyers. So all the audience were human rights lawyers, and they were raising money to raise awareness of human rights abuses around the world. Yeah. And there was no host, there was no other comedian. I came on after a dude was going through stills on a screen showing like mutilated children.
Oh no.
And then he finished, he got very polite applause. And then the girl who booked me, she was like, right, go on. And I was like, yeah, you're fucking right. Yeah. Where's the host? Is there not going to be anyone here today? She was like, no, just go on. And I was like, but what? Wait, then you got to tell them that you're gonna do comedy
Mm.
because they don't know what you're gonna do.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not like I was known. Do you know what I mean? To go up there and I couldn't bring myself to say the word. I couldn't bring myself to say I am a comedian. I'm going to do some comedy. I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Mm.
So I said, "Hey, I'm from the area. I was from the area." I was like, "I just come and tell some stories."
Right. Did it go down well?
No, bro, it was fucking horrible. The waiter came out and all the waiting staff with dinner, and they started serving dinner.
Right.
So there's even more distraction.
Yeah.
There's a woman with her back to me because they were sitting at round tables, and I could see her body tensing up every time I spoke.
Oh.
And I'm not getting like a few laughs. I'm getting no laughs whatsoever.
Mm.
And I got about 4 minutes in, and it was brutal. And I said, "Hey, you know what? I think maybe I should just go and let you guys eat."
Right.
What'd you think about that? You know? And the woman whose back was all tensed up, she turned around and she went, "Yes, I think that would be for the best."
Oh, no.
And I just put the mic in the stand and got the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's horrendous. Absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, this is another tangent here. So I don't know if this is true, but I read that. So obviously you're on Taskmaster. I read that originally you weren't super into the idea of going on Taskmaster.
I hated every moment from the beginning to the end.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I did it as a favour to Alex. He met up with me, we had a coffee, and he told me about it. I was like, "That's a genius idea, bro. That's huge." And he's like, "Would you do it?" And I don't know if you've noticed, like, my fans noticed, like, I've never done a panel show, QI, would I lie to you, never mind a buzz box, have I got news for you, 8 out of 10 cats.
Yeah.
I don't do that shit. It's like, I just don't do it. It's not my thing, you know? It's funny, people would be like, "Oh, why are you never on these shows, man? That's the fucked thing about racism in the industry." Like, it's not racism, bro. I've been offered all of those jobs. I say no every single time.
Really?
Taskmaster is the only one I've ever done. I did it because I love Alex and I love Greg. But mate, I don't hate them or the production. It's a genius show. I just hated being put on the spot every day. That show's the realest show on television. Yeah. It's real. What you see is real. Like, nobody knows what the fuck's going on. You just show up and they just turn the cameras on and go. It's horrible. I hated it. Most embarrassing thing I think I've ever done in my life.
So it's more the tasks that kind of got to you a bit. Right.
Yeah, that's not my skill set.
That's fair.
Like, I'm competitive, but I'm shit at stuff like that, you know?
I just wanted to ask, like, how many times did you punch the fish when you wrote that nursery rhyme?
That's a great question, and I really don't remember. I think it was a one taker, man.
Oh, really?
I think stuff like that I am good at. Little physical things I'm quite good at. And, I think I just looked up and punched the shit out of it. What we took time on was they put like fake blood all over my hand.
Yeah.
I don't know if I won that challenge, but that was the one I was proudest of.
No, that's fair enough. It's a good song.
Yeah. It's a funny thing considering I've never seen it, never watched me on it, never seen any clips or anything like that.
Oh, right.
Never watched the show I was on. Like, it's funny to get to this stage of my career and every day somebody asks me about like punching a fish or do I like eggs, and I'm like, wait, what? Oh, right, that thing. Yeah. Okay. It's so mad how it was such a little blip in my life, and then something that people take on in their life. But I guess that's the beauty of being an entertainer. You know, you constantly take for granted these moments that you're creating that bring other people a lot of joy. You know, and then when it's referred back to you, you're like, oh, that was just like a Tuesday that I quite remember.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's so strange, but I love it. Yeah, it's nice. Like I get stopped every day talking about this or talking about Ricky or talking about that, this, that, and the third, every single day. And people say, "Oh, you must hate that. You must hate that." And it's like, occasionally it's annoying if it's just the timing's wrong. Like you're in the queue at Sainsbury's or something like that, or you're trying to get your kids to school or some shit. But 99% of the time, the reason I like it is because I never get anything but love, man. Like people are so safe to me. Like they're so nice to me. And I think it's because I'm just not a celebrity. I'm just not a celebrity. No. I know people know who I am. But it's about what you think you are, isn't it? Like, there's other people's impression of you, and then there's your impression of yourself. And so even if people think of me as a celebrity, I don't think of myself as one.
Right.
So when we meet, it's always like, it's disarmingly like, a lot of the time people won't even ask for a photo because I just start chatting to them like I'm chatting to you, and then they just feel like, oh, right, like, oh, he's not even exclusive like that. And then they don't even want a photo, and they just move on. It's like, oh, it's just a normal grip. So, yeah, that's how I intend to go through the rest of my career.